Well, good morning, folks. Hey, it is Shooter. Hey, just going to go over primary waves, take a look at growth stocks for November 2024. Of course, please, at the end of this presentation, do review our disclosure. Now, we had quite a little bit of risk off coming into this week, of course, with the election shenanigans that we expected and brought everybody up to speed. Of course, we do expect that to continue until whoever does win that election and ends up in office. So, of course, keep that in mind. Now, we did suggest that you put on VXX 52 and 53 or 54 calls at one point, and then this week we did suggest that you roll up to late November $60 calls, sort of as an insurance policy, so you could continue to hold your longer positions if this drawdown does get a little deeper. Now, of course, optimally, I would love to get like a 382 fib extension retracement, both on the NASDAQ, the SPY, the Dow, as well as the Russell. So let's jump right into growth stocks for the month. First of all, Unity really is my stock of the month. Now, the only thing I'm unsure of here is it looks like a mound structure to me. The only problem with that is our prior mound structure dates back more than 2 years, which means there's no consistency in that. So I've put a trend line here. We break below that trend line. Basically, I've taken our all-time low and our higher low and just created a trend line off. We get below that, we could end up in this flat and we could roll lower. I've had some numbers back down around 478 on this, but I do like the volume structure that's come in here. We did have a nice push and that faded. So, we had a push and faded. So we could push and fade again. But I still think it's worth a shot. Not only that, we have some decent upside. Roughly we're at 2078 here, and we could push up maybe to $54. So that's 150% from where we're at. I think it's worth your time. So at this point, from a trading strategy, buy any breakout of 2340. Confirms the move to the upside. At any point here, sell cash secured puts between 15 and $17. Roughly go out 90 days. I think it's fine. So let's take a look at the prior NYCB or BC Bank. It is now Flagstar Financial. Changed the structure a little bit. So we've got a primary wave setup on this from the 510 low. My only thing I don't like here is even though this is a divergent low, so this is our confirmed low and this is a divergent, I don't like that flush look to this morning. So, but it's worth putting a piece on a starter position here. And then as it continues to work to the upside, we got quite a lot of work here. We got to get above 2304, really, for me even to start getting bullish and for our bullish move to be confirmed. We got to get up above about 43. So just keep that in mind as far as position size and risk. All right, let's look at AST Space Global. Now, originally, when we were at this 3908 high, I think it was a 2222 back test, and we faded to get back down there. One thing about Elliott Wave, the counts really, they tend to rhyme, not necessarily duplicate themselves. But when I have what I refer to as a ghost print, in other words, we get a print and then it keeps resetting, the count resets. Usually the original ghost print, which would have been that 2222, is a target that we hit at some point, very much like how I view an off number. We just have so many players, the big players, the commercials, the pit traders, everybody use floor pivots, and which ultimately the off numbers. So they're looking at the weekly close, monthly close, quarterly close, yearly close on those particular candles, and that's where they start initiating a lot of their buying or selling. So, but I don't think the bullish case is invalidated, and with all of the successes in the launches and actually being able to deploy the original set, I think this has some huge. I was actually digging into some of the third world numbers here on the micro and macro. I was like, man, this could be a $300 stock if all of a sudden the mass adoption in, let's say, third world wireless access or internet access, it could actually stimulate a new revolution in the internet. However, I don't think it's going to be to the profit degree, because obviously if you go into India and other third world countries, they do not necessarily have the GDP or the personal income to support the type of growth we see in something like SpaceX here in the United States, and how quick the adoption's been, or in Europe kind of thing. So maybe if it's a $50 a month premium for internet access here in the US and Europe, it may only be able to be a $28 premium in India or other third world countries. So I think that'll be masked. And to be candid, I don't know how to scale that. That's not something in my specialty. So maybe Kirk or someone else could tell me what that is. And obviously I'll adopt, but I do like the upside. Basically, any dip to 22.65, buy it. Cash secured puts, right at the money, $22 down to $20 is fine. I wouldn't go into calls here, but obviously scale common shares down to even 18.59. I think this flag originally holds. If it breaks below that, then we would back test this initial breakout. And there's a lot that's got to happen for that to occur. I think we have to have an adoption problem or something. Now, I'm very disappointed in Square considering where Bitcoin is. I figured on a move above 70,000 or 270,000 would get us up and out of this, and we're just flat here. So obviously the Bitcoin revenues are a portion of their book, but maybe not significant enough for us to get out. So I'm sort of neutral on this. I don't know that I would want to add a position here. I need some kind of catalyst to motivate me to get in it. Volume is not building here. It's declining. It's waning. Okay. However, we could look at this from this high as a squeeze as well. So once we get above, roughly about $90, then I am bullish. So, but at this point, I still think it warrants having a starter position, maybe even a half position on this if you're scaling. All right, let's look at Caesar. I was really disappointed with that candle this week. And to be candid, I didn't have time to look at the micro, macro, or what the news was or what actually happened. We need to hold the primary wave setup. 31.69 gets below that, I'd be out of the longs because then we're going to back test these. I don't know what would cause that, but that's the case. So I'm not really going to get bullish as we get a breakout above 50. However, the catalyst, I like gaming, all right, and I like online gaming, and Caesars happens to be, the top of the world kind of thing. So I see no reason you shouldn't have at least a starter position and potentially a half position and just continue to scale from here until it fails, and then I would be trimming or getting out of that. All right, ENOVIX. Challenging downtrend hasn't changed. It's a wedge. Wedge comes way the heck out over here to January 26th. I didn't put it on the chart. Basically, we take our 650 low and we draw a line across here. Basically, we take our $37 high and draw a line right down to about here. Take this line, this way, comes right out about it. It's a long time to hold in the downtrend. So challenging, and I'm going to suggest that, Kirk may have addressed this and I might have missed it, but I think this warrants addressing the micro and macro, so we get a better visual of what might be the catalyst here at 906. But again, it warrants having at least a starter position, and I would definitely add or start a new position down around 5.7. All right, now Rocket Labs. This just absolutely launched. Trajectory suggests that this B is going to morph into an impulse wave for me. That puts us up around the 161.8 fib at about 22.28, breakout for all-time highs. Boom. At that point, we might pull back. So I expect this entire structure to morph into an extremely bullish, what I refer to as a FOMO stock. Okay. What changes my mind if we close below this prior low? I expect a flag to build out here and then another one. So that is my thought. In other words, you could just go to the 50% fib and say, hey, here's my stop. I want to trim here. Or, it starts breaking down below this low. You could obviously sell some covered calls a little higher, 12.50, 13, 14. I think it only has $15, just on quick recall. Outside of that, it is not too late to enter this if it does, offer that extremely bullish trend. And again, I am very bullish space stock just because of the success rate of what satellites we have going up there. Now we need to figure out how to clean up the trash up there, which, at some point we'll figure that out. Or it comes down to we just need to put the capital in to get it out of new stuff. Got it. That's my 2 cents. Cash secured puts at any point here. I still like it. I'd probably sell $10 though, maybe $9. You could go all the way out to February or March, to get a little premium on those if you wanted to. I'm not even opposed to chase some 12, 13, 14, and maybe even some $15 calls here into March, maybe even June or July to earn some premium on this because it's to the upside. That is typically, obviously for rare subscribers only, but I like this to the upside. All right, let's look at Spira Global. Actually, it's getting bullish, looking bullish. I completely revamped my chart. I did not go with the auto Elliott waves, manually reworked this puppy just because I'm bullish. That said, I've spent a lot of time this last quarter analyzing my work because I'm trying to bring in AI and bring in other facets. And the challenging part is there's so much information, and I experience information overload where my mind just absolutely exhausts because I'm looking at so much. So I'm trying to really focus down on so where am I right, where am I wrong? Back to the basics, the ABCs of how I come up with my structure, Elliott wave counts, Fibonacci's, etc. And bottom line is we put in a primary wave 5 down here at 280. Right? We confirmed way the heck back over here. Actually, way the heck over here. Then we flush, right? Absolutely flush, right? That's unusual. 50% back is back up here. I can't even see it on this chart. Back around 50 or 60 bucks from that flush. So this thing has right here, it has a 5x upside. All we need to do is close above 15 bucks roughly, and it confirms the bullish case to the upside. So the look that we have here is very bullish. This, I was mixed between here and Unity to say, hey, this is my stock. And the reason I was mixed is Unity had a better flat bottom, and there was more profit to the upside if we caught it. But I actually like the spiral global chart better just because of the breadth and really the fact that we had that catalyst to the downside, and then we continued to put in divergent lower lows all across the board. And then basically once we put in our first higher low, our RSI structured flip bullish. Okay, those are all things I love to see in the chart. And the catalyst to the upside here is cash secured puts at any time. I absolutely have no problem at buying $10 quarterly calls on this, and I believe it holds up. So basically how you do that is you go out 2 quarters, so you go out 6 months, and you go all the way up to a $15 call if you wanted to. But the reason I'm saying in the money is we're trying to extend our gain versus common shares. So if you're scaling into common shares and the stock goes to 12 bucks and you bought at $10, your gain is percent. However, if instead of buying the stock at $10, you bought $10 calls, they will likely go up between 80 to 300%, depending on how much we move in the short time frame, if we're just looking at 15 bucks. So if you bought $10 calls and at $5, ultimately that's about a 1,500% gain, okay, to the upside. So when we have the opportunity to scale to the upside, that's one thing that's in my book that I want to spend a lot more time on. I want to spend more time on the 600% gains or more, and when we have those in stocks, and I want to make sure I'm sharing this. So, by the way, give me some input on that. I really would appreciate the feedback on these YouTube videos, obviously, so I can help improve my work, so I do a better job projecting my message. Okay, thanks for that, by the way. All right, let's look at quick. Now, we still have a little downside. Basically, buy any dip to 560, open a starter position down there. Now, I want to really talk a second about RSI and why it is so important to my work. And momentum tells us some other things, but it's not as clean for me as RSI. This entire leg up, RSI was telling us this flush would happen. The question is, did we listen? All right, and that's something else I want to focus on going into 2025 is, are we listening to the technicals on what they're telling? I mean, then that's the challenging part. So, what I'm going to initiate in 2025 is I don't really want to do a weekly review on charts that we've been in, sort of a look back, but I think we are going to flip into a monthly look back on where we were right and where we were wrong and why, sort of some like an internal criticism, to try and improve the work. But again, you have any suggestions on that, or anyone who might be interested in working on those with me, Teresa, maybe, okay. Please, DM me on that as well. So, all right, let's take a look at MP Materials. Nice bottom here. Nice bottom. The only thing is, it looks a little short-lived for me. I mean, in other words, it's shallow. We could push out till later October 2025 in a flat before we actually break out. But we do have a very bullish look to this flag here. We get above the 23.6, it confirms the bullish move for me to the upside. My target on wave 3 is only 24.96 because it really needs, it's going to be tight here. Now, whenever we have an elongated 5 like this, ultimately the scripting or the programming language sees a 5 wave here, but it also sees that super cycle wave and where we bottom, because this was our cycle wave 1 and our cycle wave 2. So there's a lot of breadth in this leg. So it's always looking at equality. So that's why our cycle wave 3 is way the heck up here at 91.58, because it's looking at this breadth from $60 down to $10. Okay. So, roughly, a 6x move, it's looking for a 6x move to the upside. It always looks at equality, and then there's a variation to, determining whether or not we're going to go to the 50% fib, 61, 78, 6, etc. Which ultimately is why I've set up the golden box structure the way it is, because this we're trading our level, but it gives us the probability, and again, Mr. Market, as I call it, there's 2 players in that. That's retail investors and the commercial, okay? The commercials are looking for the 78.6. Retail investors are looking for the 61.8. For those of us who use Fibonacci extension, which is why I have my 50% back marked, because it gives me my margin of safety. That's it. Real simple. But I like this to the upside. This is one I like. March, $20 to $25 calls on this one. Cash secured puts at any point here. I wouldn't sell right at the money, maybe $15. Scale for common share. That's my thought. All right. AAOI. And maybe it's just my mood. When I get into the charts, sometimes I just get motivated by looking at my charts, But this looks bullish now to me too. Now, I don't know how much this has to do with the stimulus coming out of China, but thus far, I think my thesis about the fact China is not going to be able to quit pumping money until they resolve the issue fail. And considering that we've continued to see the stimulus, and yet we have an extremely weak residential sector, is telling. But I think AAOI is a big benefactor just because of its special. So once we get above the 23.6 and we confirm the upside, I really think that $45 target, 44.35, is viable. So again, this is another chart where I'm like, hey, I really don't have a problem with going in with a few $20 calls out in March, and maybe even some $25 calls, sort of scale, do a mix. I'd say 60-40 cash secured puts at any time, any dip back to the lower candle. So roughly a dip anywhere to about 14.50, add to that. But I would scale over time. I wouldn't just come out and buy, hey, if you're going to allot 25 grand for AAOI, I wouldn't put all 25 grand on it. I'd scale. So on any dip I'd add, any dip I'd add, any dip I'd add, just as we go up the ladder to the up. But that's what we've got for this month, folks. Please like and share this video if you've enjoyed it. Please put any comment in the message center, whatever that thing's called on YouTube. And of course, share with anyone else in your family, anyone else you'd like to see our work with, because obviously that helps us grow our book. Great trading. Until next time.